What's on YouTube? It's PeteTT back at it with another Division video. Today guys I want to talk about the Dark Zone and potentially how to fix it. Now obviously this video is going to be my opinion only, and I want to make that very clear. For those of you that follow me on Twitter, you will have no doubt seen the recent discussion between myself and many other members of the Division community regarding both PvP and the Dark Zone. So I thought I would put together another video being a little bit more specific on the issues I see in the Dark Zone and how to potentially fix them. Now, I also want to apologise for the very old footage in the background. As you know, I've recently moved house and currently have another 10 days to go until I get the internet back, so I can't play to record any current gameplay. So yeah, sorry about that guys, but you are going to have to live with it. So what's this particular video going to cover? Well, first up, it's going to cover running in circles and the hip-firing gun battles that we see quite regularly. Number two, it's going to talk about the risk versus reward for the Dark Zone overall. And number three, we're going to lightly touch on weapon balancing. Now, the reason we're going to touch lightly on it is because I will also come to it in part 3 when I've gone through a load of the other issues. We will revisit weapon balancing and you will see that actually it's going to be a very easy thing to do if other things are done before it. Now, I know what you're thinking guys, I haven't mentioned broken metas, broken gear sets, unbalanced rogue systems and so much more, and that's because these topics will follow in a later video. As you know, these topics are kind of lengthy and have some very complex solutions that need to be broken down. So for today, let's start the ball rolling with number 1, running in circles. We all know that there is a severe issue in the Dark Zone when it comes to PvPing and people running in circles. I mean, come on, this is supposed to be a cover-based shooter after all. Why is it that 99% of gunfights happen out of cover? Well, in my opinion, I feel the reason this happened is because there's not enough emphasis on being in cover as there is in PvE. Now, yes, the implementation of damage to targets out of cover that currently sits on LMGs and the Banshee gear set are a great new addition, but I don't feel there are anywhere near enough to force players to play the game as it was designed, i.e. a cover-based shooter. Now, there are some simple ways I feel to solve the issue. Number 1, give players that use cover some form of increased stats, and I mean a serious increase to stats. Think about it, if you got, say, 30% extra damage to targets when in cover, you would be sure to use cover a lot more. If you teamed it up then with, say, a high-end holster that increases your armor while in cover, you would again gain higher stats, thus making you a lot harder to kill, and your time to kill would be a lot better too. Number 2, penalise players that want to PvP out of cover. Now, I'm not talking a serious penalty. I mean, after all, everyone has their own playstyle, but the current problem is that there is no real penalty to running around in circles, hip firing weapons, and there really needs to be, because all this current problem means is that the developers feel the need to nerf weapons to try and solve an unbalanced hip firing circle running meta that is currently being used, and that's not good. Because when you then try and play the game and you're trying to play it as a cover-based shooter and use weapons and setups that don't complement the current meta, you know, running around in circle, Alpha Bridge, famous builds, you get totally destroyed. Now, why else do I see fixing the issue of running in circles so important? Well, I feel that if you can fix this, then you start fixing other problems as well. Weapons can be brought back up to where they were before, in specific, returning SMGs to a good and viable state. Make other gear sets have a chance to be used as they would complement a cover-based playstyle. There would be a stronger feel of risk and reward when engaging in PvP, because you would know to push up into an enemy's face out of cover could end horribly, and that would of course encourage a more strategic playstyle rather than just running around hip firing a weapon hoping to get the kill. Now, Obviously guys, I'm sure there are plenty of ideas kicking about that could fix this particular problem, and as always I would love to hear them in the comment section down below. But either way guys, I think we can all agree that the current state of running in circles is not good, and when fixed could start naturally fixing other issues too. Now I don't want to ponder on this specific topic too long, so let's move on to number 2, the risk and reward section. Now this is a subject that for me hits home really hard. I remember the beta days very clearly, and I remember the early days where we lost so much XP that we didn't want to PvP for fear of losing the XP and credits. And I've got to be totally honest here guys, I think a way of fixing the risk and reward factor of the Dark Zone is to go back to a point where we lost a lot more XP and funds for dying in a PvP engagement. But I would tweak it in a big way. Number 1. If you win an engagement as a non-rogue agent and killed a rogue agent, then you would get double the funds and XP that agent you killed had lost. This would give good risk to the rogue and good reward for the rogue hunter. Now, if the engagement ended with the rogue agent killing the non-rogue agent, then the non-rogue agent would be rewarded for trying to PvP with a small return of XP and funds that they had lost, and the rogue agent would receive a conditional instant amount of XP and funds. Again, this offers both risk and reward to both sides. Now this could also be improved if the idea of Dark Zone only appearance items was introduced or other similar mechanics. Whatever way you look at it guys, the risk and reward for PvP and the Dark Zone in general are in a very poor state. Now let's look at the PvE risk and reward, because no matter who you are in the division, you cannot forget the fact that the Dark Zone is played by both PvP and PvE players, and I feel that currently there is a massive divide between the two. Now, the problem that is the PvP PvE Dark Zone situation is something entirely for another video, so let me get back to my PvE risk and reward. So currently I feel the risk reward for PvE in the Dark Zone is also in a very poor state. Example, you run around killing NPCs, opening chests, extracting loot, but if you die you only lose a little bit of XP and funds now. And the rewards for a seasoned agent that has a very strong maximised build is minimal. Now I have a solution to this too. When you enter the Dark Zone, in my kind of thought, you should pick up a bounty. And the bounty has rewards split into tiers. Example, tier 1 is a named piece of gear. Tier 2 is 3 gear score pieces. Tier 3 is 3 high ends, etc, etc. You see where this is going guys. Now to meet the requirements for those tiers you must do several PvE specific tasks. Tier 1, I don't know, let's say you spend 3 hours in the Dark Zone without dying. This gives some more risk and better rewards. However, if you fail a bounty, you have chosen to accept it, you automatically get deranked and lose a bigger chunk of funds. Now obviously I'm not saying you must pick this up guys, but if you wanted to pick up this bounty it would give you, you know, some form of risk and reward. Now again guys, this is only an idea and a personal one at that. I am in no way saying that this is the way to fix the risk and reward system for the Dark Zone. It is aimed to be an example of possible ways to increase the risk reward for both PvE and PvP players, because currently there doesn't seem to be the feel in the Dark Zone that we had in the beta and the early days. Now let's look at the punishing truth that also needs to be addressed about the risk and reward system with the 19-second rogue timer. Currently there's next to no reward for killing a player on a 19-second timer, but there is a lot of risk. You still lose a good chunk of XP and funds if killed on this stage. Now, in my opinion, this needs to be removed. I think that the rogue timer should not start until you get a full kill. This would allow a little bit more freedom when rogue hunting, as you could shoot at an enemy and not worry about someone running in front of you, and it would help the PvP side of things because you would be able to bail on a fight you accidentally started rather than commit to it and be penalised by the loss of XP and funds. Now, I know this will be a tad controversial, but that's okay. We're not all going to agree on every idea out there on how the Dark Zone should be, but I think we can all agree that trolls and people that like to run in front of you while you're shooting are a massive pain in the ass, and they should be forced to commit to an attack if they want to PvP and not force you into a PvP encounter that they will benefit from by running in front of you. If you don't wish to do so, then you shouldn't be forced, you know? They should be forced for making you. Now then, again guys, I don't want to ramble on too long, so I ask you to leave your comments down below about the state of the risk and reward system in the Dark Zone in your opinion for both PvP and PvE players. Now, let's move on to number 3, weapon balancing. The current state of weapon balancing, in my opinion, is shocking. We have weapons that have been nerfed into the ground, and we have weapons that are stupidly overpowered. To me, it feels like year 1 Crucible weapon balancing, whereas the devs don't really know how to fix the issue, so they just try any old solution and it doesn't work. Now, I'm sure that's not the actual truth, but that is how, as a player, it makes me feel. See, to me, all weapons should be powerful, all weapons should be good, and all weapons should be viable in certain situations. To me, what should balance a weapon are things like bullet drop-off, effective range, gear set talents, weapon modification, and the list goes on. Now, yes, I may be looking at this in a very logical, real-life way, but I don't see why the same logical thinking can't be applied in-game. A shotgun should be devastating at close range, but very quickly lose its lethality at range. An SMG should be brutally accurate and deadly at close to medium ranges, and again have severe drop-off rates that make it ineffective at range. LMG should be a support type weapon and should in no way be an up close personal defense weapon. And as for assault rifles, well, all I want to say on that is there's a reason that every single military force around the world uses them as a basic weapon for all infantry units. You know, they're effective at all ranges, but with a varying degree. The bottom line, guys, is that weapons need to be rebalanced, and I know there is also an issue to take into account of gear sets here and the difference between console and PC, but I honestly believe a mass overhaul of weapons and weapon types and even talents needs to be looked at if we want to balance the Dark Zone for both PvP and PvE. When we look at how powerful now assault rifles are because enemy armor damage is a thing in the Dark Zone, then you'll start to see the issue that I'm talking about. To me, when you pick a weapon loadout, you should pick it to match your personal playstyle and gear set, not because it's a meta and you want to succeed. When you start to factor in other things like playing as a team and you start to add in other weapon types, playstyles and gear sets, then yes, the majority of the balancing issues do go away, but some are still a serious issue. Now, I also want to say I know that the big issue is with the Alpha Bridge FAMA setup, but I have a dedicated video on that later in the week, so for now I'm going to wrap this up, guys. As always, I would love to have your discussions in the comment section down below. I feel that 1.6 is such a big update, there really needs to be all the discussion there can be on how to improve. Who knows who might watch the video and others like it and take those ideas to the devs and the ETF. So yeah, guys, comment, like, and if you're new, subscribe. There are plenty more Division videos coming your way, including part 2 and part 3 of this video. And until then, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you all soon.